Cousins got rid of it right before he was hit. Byron Murphy with a one-handed pick. Takes a knee in the end zone.
The NFC North is the most storied division in football, with some of the NFL's oldest and most prolific teams. This division contains rivalries that run all the way back 100 years to the 1920s, and every year it's a battle to see who will win this competitive division. This year is no different, as I believe as of right now, the NFC North is one of the hardest conferences to play in all of football. Teams like the Packers and Vikings are always competitive, but now even the Lions are making their bid for the division title just as they did last year. This is going to be a difficult division to rank as these teams are very similar in terms of talent, but I'm going to be going through who exactly will win the NFC North and who will finish last.
Won today. It's just a little weird though. Come on, baby. Let's go. Let's do it.
Coming in at last place in the division, I have the Chicago Bears. This doesn't mean I think this team will suck by any means. It's more so just how packed the NFC North is currently. I think every team in here has the opportunity to be a playoff team, but they all can't be. I put the Bears here really because they are the newest team. What I mean by that is that they have a very new roster. A lot of these guys are very talented, but were playing elsewhere in 2024 and are very young. They have a first-year head coach in Ben Johnson, who I think was a great hire, but he may need some time to pull this franchise together, and it all might not happen in 1 year. They made big offseason moves to revamp their offensive line by trading for Joe Thuney, one of the best guards in the game, signing Jonah Jackson, who, when healthy, is a very solid guard, and Drew Dowman from Atlanta, who was a very solid center for them last year. The tackle positions are remaining the same with Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, which I think is fine for another year. They then drafted tight end Colston Loveland in the first round, which I like a lot as he can be a true route runner from the tight end position. I would have preferred Tyler Warren here personally, but regardless, they got a playmaker on offense. We get to see how Swift will perform behind this much better offensive line, and the same goes for Caleb Williams, who they're obviously hoping takes a big step up in year 2 after a lackluster year 1. Their offense finished 28th in the NFL last season, and their defense finished 13th. All in all, I think the Bears got a lot better in the offseason, and I think their record will reflect that. They went 5-12 last year in a year where they fired their head coach and had a rookie quarterback. I think this year I see the Bears at a 9-8 season with an 11-6 ceiling and a 7-10 floor. I think no matter what happens this year, you will see a much improved Bears team with a lot more fight in them than we saw last year.
Many years in this league.
Quick snap, Love, lofts, open, it's caught. Jaden Reed in the soft spot, stays on his feet, touchdown.
Coming in at third place, I have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers always just find ways to be competitive. They have such a good front office and always seem to make the right coaching hires. I think they're in another solid spot for the 2025 season. I just think they did a little less than the other teams in this division did during the offseason. They signed 49er guard Aaron Banks to a pretty big contract, which I liked quite a bit, and they also signed corner Nate Hobbs from Vegas, who I view as an underrated corner in this league. However, they didn't really do much else, and it's a very similar roster to last year's. And last year's team was perfectly fine, as they finished 11-6 and generated a playoff berth, even in this extremely competitive division. I think they have a secure quarterback in Jordan Love, a very solid run game with Josh Jacobs at the helm, and a solid offensive line. I wish Love had some more targets to throw to, however, as the core seems to be filled with wide receiver 2 skill level guys without any one true wide receiver sticking out from the rest. Despite that, they still had the number 8 offense in the NFL off the back of Josh Jacobs and had the number 6 rated defense in the NFL on top of that. They were very competitive last year, and I think they will continue to be competitive this year. I see the Packers at a solid 11-6 once again this season with a ceiling of a 13-4 record and a floor of 7-10 record. It's a well-polished team that's well-coached and is solid on both sides of the ball.
Comfortable. There's Hawkinson inside.
Here we go. Goff from the gun to the end zone. It is caught. Touchdown.
And coming in at number 2 in the NFC North, I have the Detroit Lions. The Lions are coming off of one of their best seasons of the Super Bowl era, where they went 15-2 and earned themselves a 1 seed in the NFL playoffs. It was short-lived, however, as they lost in a shootout to the Washington Commanders in the divisional round and were sent home earlier than expected. Regardless of that outcome, it was more for Lions fans than they've had in years, and have now made back-to-back deep playoff runs. I think this is a team that's ready for the same thing in 2025. They've secured their quarterback position in Jared Goff. They have the best running back duo in the NFL in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and they have a fantastic defense. The only reason why I don't see them winning the division is because they lost both coordinators in the offseason, and I wasn't a huge fan of their replacements. Losing Ben Johnson is obviously devastating in my opinion, as he was by far the best coordinator in football. I understand that it was bound to happen eventually, but it still weakens them regardless. Then losing Aaron Glenn to the Jets, who was a solid defensive coordinator for them and a coach that the players love to play for. I'm not overly concerned about this, as I think the talent on both sides of the ball will be plenty of help for any new coordinator, but in a division that's so tightly packed with talent all across the board, it may hurt them a bit. I still think this team is one of the best in football and could once again make a deep playoff run if the coordinators end up working out. I see the Lions at a 12-5 season with a ceiling of 14-3 season and a floor of 8-9. The floor is a bit lower on this one, as it is contingent on a lot of new coaches panning out.
Again here, second down, has time this time, loads, going deep, has a man, Naylor, he's got it, touchdown Minnesota.
In winning the NFC North, I have the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, I think, surprised a lot of people last year with their 14-3 finish, but then surprised no one when they lost in the first round of the playoffs, and that's what they do every year. Regardless, it was a very dominant team in the regular season and saw the breakout of quarterback Sam Darnold as he led them all the way to the playoffs while having the best statistical season of his career by a long mile. This year, Darnold took off from Minnesota and joined the Seattle Seahawks, where he signed a 3-year deal to be their signal caller. The Vikings were then linked to some Aaron Rodgers rumor, which I covered in my Where Will Aaron Rodgers Play in 2025 video. But after all of those rumors, it looks like it's going to be the former first-round pick J.J. McCarthy leading the way for the Vikings this season. If I'm being honest, I wasn't a big J.J. McCarthy fan coming out of Michigan. I thought he was a solid game manager in college, but he never really impressed me by taking over a game. He was always just very efficient. I see his NFL career being somewhat similar to that. I think he can be a solid signal caller and manage a game well and not make too many mistakes, but I doubt we will see much of him taking over games in 2025. However, with that being said, this defense might just be the best defense in the NFL this season. They had massive moves by signing defensive tackle Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave in free agency, adding them to what was already a loaded defensive line in the first place. Their defense finished 5th overall in 2024, led by Brian Flores, and their offense finished 9th overall, led by Sam Darnold, now J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy concerns me a bit, but he's in a fantastic situation with the best wide receiver in football, Justin Jefferson, to throw to, a solid tight end in T.J. Hawkinson, and a great offensive line that was made much better by the additions of Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly. All in all, I think this team finishes at a record of 12-5 with a ceiling of 14-3 and a floor of 9-8. I think this defense is way too good to finish anywhere below that, and they will once again make waves during the 2025 season and finally take the NFC North.